And with that, we go to the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am a co-sponsor of the Judges Act, your legislation, which we worked very hard to get passed last year, which passed the Senate and the House with overwhelming bipartisan support. But unfortunately, it was vetoed by former President Biden. I condemn the former president's veto in the strongest terms. This was done for one reason and one reason alone, because he lost. Is there any doubt at all that if former Vice President Harris had won the election, that President Biden would have signed that legislation? And the way that it was crafted was in order to try to shield the bill from these sort of crass political calculations, from the pettiness and rank partisanship that ultimately dictated former President Biden's decision. It was crafted and passed from behind a veil of ignorance. The Senate passed it overwhelmingly in August of last year before we knew who the winner of the presidential election would be. Not only that, but the appointment of judges was phased in so it wouldn't just be the next president or now the current president who would get to make all of the appointments. And so, I get asked a lot at town hall meetings, at other gatherings from constituents, how do we overcome the political division in this country? Why do things keep getting worse and worse? And this is just a perfect example where you had a president who defied the bipartisan will of Congress, who defied the recommendation of the Judicial Conference simply because he was upset with the outcome of an election and didn't want to cede any advantage to his political opponents. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And the reality is that we have caseloads in every circuit in this country that have become a serious problem. At this point, there are 210,800 cases, civil cases, that have been pending for more than 3 years. I'll say that again. The number of cases that have been pending for more than 3 years is over 210,000, and of course there are many that have been pending for much longer. Now, it should be acknowledged that some of this represents the propensity for frivolous litigation across many different areas of law. But it also reflects the fact that we have not, in a significant way, authorized new judges since 1990. And so what's the consequence of that when we have this sort of limited access to justice? Well, imagine if we had a judiciary that existed on paper, but we had no judges at all. At that point, we'd have a constitution, citizens would have rights, but there'd be no means of vindicating them, no means of enforcing them, so they'd be essentially meaningless. Well, that same problem exists to a commensurate degree if we have an inadequately staffed judiciary. If we have citizens who have to wait years and years and years in order to have their cases resolved and heard. And when you have these cases tied up for so long, this is just an enormous deadweight loss in our economy. Protracted litigation doesn't result in any sort of increased productivity or anything like that. It's just sheer loss. And what's more, it particularly disadvantages smaller litigants. Let's say a startup trying to defend its intellectual property. While this case is going on for years and years and years, they're not able to market their product, they lose market share, they're not able to get investors, the company might die. And in fact, some larger litigants explicitly use that as a strategy in order to prevail in their cases. So it's worth asking, why is this the case? Why has the rest of government continued to grow and grow and grow, but we haven't been able to keep up with the number of judges we need? And I would surmise that perhaps it's because judges don't have high-powered lobbyists who are able to go around, aren't able to mobilize powerful interests on their behalf in order to expand their ranks in the same way that you have for other areas of government. But maybe I'd ask you that question, Judge Timkovich. Why do you think this has become sort of a persistent problem where we're not able to maintain the number of judges that we need? And do you see any solutions to it that would help us overcome some of the political barriers?
Well, like I said, I testified on this very issue 10 years ago, and the problem was grave then, and it's only gotten worse over the last decade. I last year, a bill did get through both houses of Congress. So to the extent the process works with what you up there do, not what we do, we're hopeful that there can be an opportunity to solve the problem on the judiciary. We currently have 20 judicial emergencies around the country. They're not located in one district or another. The bill that was proposed involves 25 different courts, district courts, over 15 different states across the country. So there's widespread need for the bill, and there's widespread opportunity for members of Congress to address needs within their local communities as well.
Thank you. I yield back.